The left stokes hatred of Rittenhouse. So as you know, Kyle Rittenhouse was acquitted of all charges, as he should have been, because he was defending himself. You're allowed to defend yourself in America. It's called the Second Amendment. And the media has gone crazy. The illiberal media has gone crazy. So meanwhile, and I have an interesting take on this, because I'm sure you're thinking that we're going to just take you in one linear direction, podcast listeners, and the direction is, well, the media is so awful. Yeah, we're going to take you in that direction when it comes to Kyle Rittenhouse. But there's something else. There are consequences of a media and an illiberal left that is saying that Kyle Rittenhouse is a white supremacist because he defended himself. And you know what that results in? It results in what we just saw, in my opinion, in Waukesha, Wisconsin, where there was a Christmas parade, and a gentleman who is now in custody and appears to be the individual because they have his car, ran over a bunch of people and killed them and injured many others. And the gentleman happens to be black. And I ask you, podcast listeners, how does an individual get radicalized? How does an individual? Well, you tell the individual that the sole root of all of their sadness in their life, the sole root of why they aren't doing well, is because of white supremacists like Kyle Rittenhouse. Thus, you have this Waukesha, Wisconsin Christmas parade where an individual, this particular individual, goes in, and I grant you it's alleged, but let's face it, people are dead and people are injured. It's not alleged. And it's alleged that he did it. Okay, we have to say that. He hasn't been tried and convicted, so we have to be careful. He's been charged, I'm sure, is about to be charged. They have a person of interest and they have his car.
Let's talk about what.
It's like O.J. Simpson, right? But that's a whole different thing.
Why was he out of jail in the first place?
Right. Yes. And where I'm taking us here, Matt, where I'm taking this podcast right now is that the illiberal left has gotten so crazy with their language that you can't even have the right of a trial and be acquitted in America without the left still stoking up this division, causing what really is a terrorist incident by this gentleman in Waukesha, Wisconsin. I mean, what we should be saying right now is that this is domestic terrorism that this guy is engaged in. So what are your thoughts on this?
I think the left is crazy. And this is what they're now that we're starting to cross into what they call social justice. You know, people have been discriminated, and their only solution to fix past discrimination is future discrimination.
Yes.
And that's where we're at. The events of yesterday where the guys just drove through the car, what a bunch of disturbing video.
Incredible.
That was.
I
we're not going to play it because,
I couldn't even watch it.
Yeah, it was horrible. And imagine yourself sitting there, and my daughter participates. She's in the band. She does a lot of that stuff. And you're sitting there wondering, it's like, man, this car just drove through a crowd in what looks like to, we don't know the details of the case, but we do know this guy had a long rap sheet. Matter of fact, he was a rapper. Yeah, they released a video showing him that he was actually rapping in front of the car that he used to drive through the crowd. Mm-hmm. He was convicted for sexual assault, which kind of leads me to
with a minor.
Yeah.
So
much like Joseph Rosenbaum in the Kyle Rittenhouse case.
That's exactly right. That happened in Nevada. Apparently, he had a number of cases of engaging in sex with minors in Nevada and was convicted there. So yeah, this guy's a real winner.
I mean, right. I mean, at this point, he could end up with a Disney special. Nothing would surprise me.
Or a teaching gig at a major university.
Yeah, a teaching gig in a major university.
Right. He's a minor attracted individual.
You got to start wondering about the social justice platform is, why are these people out of jail? These are not like good people. They get out of jail. They support these horrific crimes. And, the first thing apparently they do once they get out is they go do more destruction.
And this goes to how the illiberal left media has stoked this anger of individuals, that an individual would find it compelling to get into a car and run over innocent people in a parade, a Christmas parade. And then you have Bubba Wallace, who's a NASCAR driver, who says Rittenhouse would have gotten life if he were black. Now, you know a lot about this particular industry.
I do.
Tell me about it. And Bubba Wallace.
Well, Bubba Wallace, I mean, I'm starting to wonder if he would have a job if he was white. I mean,
is he not that good at his work?
Well, I think he's an okay driver. He's extremely marketable, and that's the reason why he's in that car. Mm-hmm. But for him to come out and make these statements, especially severely misleading statements after a jury's already issued a verdict, it's not good for the country. It's not good for the people that are followers, and it just shows you how much the media has really poisoned people like him. And I blame the media for this because they've been doing it for quite some time, Mark. I mean, you look back at Russian collusion, Hunter Biden's laptop. Heck, you can go back 10 years ago and talk about the Duke rape case.
That's true.
Where they're out to target and drive a certain narrative. And it's just really, really bad for the country. Now, we used to be able to get independent news sources. You know, social media played a real role in that. But now you have independent fact checkers and them crossing that out and different algorithms. And it's setting up a lot of confusion for people trying to get the true narratives out.
Well, it starts out with the illiberal left literally lying, not just about the Rittenhouse trial, but not even attempting to educate what appears to be a very uneducated audience that they have about the American system of you are innocent until proven guilty. And that when you have a trial by a jury of your peers and you were found innocent, by the way, not because it was a jury that was a hung jury, but a jury that unanimously found you innocent of all charges. And what the jury didn't say, because that's not their job is to say you're either innocent or guilty. What the jury didn't say, but they said at least through indirectly their actual ruling was, this guy was defending himself.
Well, it was pretty obvious when the guy was defending himself for anyone that paid attention to the trial, especially when the person he shot that lived came out there and gave testimony. He's like, well, he only pointed the gun at me after I pointed my gun at him.
Yes. Yes.
So that would be the definition of self-defense.
Who amongst us, Matt, wouldn't want to defend ourselves if we ourselves or our children or family members were in the parade in Waukesha, Wisconsin, and we saw this guy coming and we had the right to carry and we saw him driving and speeding up? Who among us wouldn't try to shoot at least the tire, right? To try to stop him if we...
Well, I think details are still coming out in the case. Apparently, I think police tried to stop him there's a couple bullet holes in that vehicle that they knew this was going to be a problem.
But I'm referencing a third party, like a Rittenhouse type person who just happened to be at the parade. They happened to be had concealed carry or open carry. And they legally were possessing a gun. And
I think those situations happen all the time, especially when people are having concealed carry. What stops a bad guy with a gun is a good guy with a gun.
Do you think MSNBC will talk about that?
No, because those situations happen all the time. They'll spread through right-leaning news sources, but you'll never hear it on MSNBC. And MSNBC, I mean, let's just face it, their reporting on this has been god-awful.
It's
god-awful.
The Read Out blog, which is Joy Reid, she tweets out, Kyle Rittenhouse trial was designed to protect white conservatives who kill. The shooter's homicide acquittal coddles conservatives and may lead to even more violence. So, folks, that's what MSNBC put out, one of their key anchors, Joy Reid. And then literally within days, yesterday in particular, you have this Christmas parade massacre, probably by an MSNBC viewer who's watching this stuff and is being stoked by these things. And it's short. This would be a good question by the media if they weren't so illiberal. Namely, when this guy is charged, if he is the correct person, let's face it, they have his car. Hey, sir.
The headline on MSNBC, if this guy it's another white supremacist disguised as a black person.
He's a white supremacist who killed a bunch of other white supremacists. Yeah,
but that's where they're at right now.
Wouldn't they ask him? Wouldn't the media? Wouldn't it be interesting to ask him, sir, what has radicalized you to do such a thing, and find out what he says And you can probably match it, I'm guessing, with what you're seeing on MSNBC and CNN.
Nobody's going to talk about that because the media they're not legitimate news people. They're corrupt Democratic operatives trying to drive a narrative.
Exactly. And we're going to get to that.
And you know what? A good case of that was, it wasn't that long ago that you had 3 congressmen shot up on a baseball field.
Yes.
By a Bernie Sanders supporter.
Correct.
And I don't think there was a lot of news around that at that time, or what established and radicalized that man.
And this goes to, and I know Chris, our producer, has said this a few times, and that is too many Americans are looking to the federal government to solve every problem. And you know that you feel like your whole life is at stake when everybody looks to the federal government, by the way, including conservatives, and we're saying, wow, conservatives are saying, wow, government's way out of control. The federal level, we feel so connected to the outcome, to the stakes of elections at the federal level. It was never supposed to be that way. It was never supposed to be that way. And MSNBC host, she says she's disgusted by the Kenosha verdict of Kyle Rittenhouse. He's a little murderous white supremacist. So MSNBC host, podcast listeners, Tiffany Cross, laid into Illinois teenager Kyle Rittenhouse, calling him a little murderous white supremacist. We actually have that clip. If you want to know, if you want to really understand why we have riots across America, why the Democrat voters are rioting, and why the Democrat voters are engaging in these horrible crimes, just watch and listen to MSNBC host Tiffany Cross. We're going to talk about what needs to be done to stop this, not to cancel MSNBC, not at all, to hold them accountable. But first, listen to this clip. We have it. Here it is.
I find these people disgusting, Ellie. I'm disgusted at what I'm seeing. It's not just this trial, it's other trials. But this in particular, the fact that white supremacists roam the halls of Congress freely and celebrate this little murderous white supremacist, and the fact that he gets to walk the streets freely, it lets you know these people have access to instituting laws. They represent the legislative branch of this country. What do we do?
Yeah, so can you believe that?
Murderous white supremacists.
It's
like there's no evidence to show that he was... This is a narrative that they built, completely fabricated.
But what if, Matt, you are an MSNBC viewer and that's all you watch? And it's hard to believe, but they have them. And wouldn't that probably radicalize you?
Yeah,
because
look at multiple college campuses at this point, where this narrative is pushed. And look, if you're a kid that age saying, man, this little radical white supremacist could come and shoot up my neighborhood.
Yes.
And people are fearful from it. And it's just irresponsible. It is irresponsible. And my question is, when is their Twitter account going to be suspended? I mean, they were on the verge of jury intimidation. They sent reporters out to follow the jurors home.
Correct. While they were being sequestered, they're following the jurors.
Yeah, I mean,
the juror bus.
At what point do they pay a price for this? And I think there's going to be a lawsuit, and I hope it's a big one.
This goes to why we're doing this segment, the illiberal left and what the media is doing. So we're going to do this segment even before the massacre in Waukesha, Wisconsin, of this Christmas parade. Now between Rittenhouse and this Christmas parade, if there can be a nexus created between that Christmas parade, this gentleman that committed this crime, and MSNBC, then we need to hit them exactly where it counts, which is in their wallet. And the difference between us on the right, conservatives, and the illiberal left is I don't want to cancel MSNBC or CNN. I want people to see in the United States that there are consequences for stoking evil. And this is pure evil that they're doing. They're engaging in pure evil. And then there's the whole Rittenhouse verdict, right? The fact that they said this about Rittenhouse and they've called him all these names and they've been misreporting. I can't wait, as you just said, Matt, for Rittenhouse to also sue MSNBC, CNN, and the president of the United States and go after them right where it counts.
Oh, well, Joe Biden had campaign ads on those, and they were trying to establish a false narrative, linking like anything they could to Trump, white supremacy, And because, look, this is what they have to do to win elections. They have to lie, they have to distort and distract, because it's not like they're going to run on their policies working.
Exactly.
I mean, they come out and promise you the utopia. They deliver on Baltimore. They deliver on Chicago.
Well, Joy Reid said last week, well, I guess people don't like Joe Biden anymore. That's why his polls numbers are falling, because they've already burned through their $2,000 that they got. And I'm like, well, yeah, they probably have burned through the $2,000.
But look, I mean, the repercussion is that this should go to court, and this kid should win a lot of money. I mean,
by the way, would you rather have $2,000 from the federal government, or would you rather have an actual real job and a real career and a real career path?
You'd rather have a career
where you have a lifelong ability to make a living.
Right. And we use this argument during like minimum wage law, where it's like, I don't want an extra nickel an hour. I want a career. You want opportunity.
Yes.
And it only comes from having more businesses, more opportunity.
So the Rittenhouse thing, let's go back to that, because we're on this illiberal left and the Rittenhouse thing. By the way, in the Babylon Bee podcast listeners, in the Babylon Bee, they have an article titled,
which looks like a legitimate news source at this point,
but it is not. It's it's
satire.
It's satire, but you're right. It's probably more accurate than MSNBC. It's the title of the article is Rittenhouse verdict raises concerns that it's no longer safe to beat people to death with a skateboard. So, as Americans deal with the aftermath of the Rittenhouse verdict, many are being forced to come to terms with the fact that it's no longer safe to beat people to death with a skateboard in America. Quote, I'm devastated. I'm terrified. I don't even recognize my own country anymore, said local concerned citizen Gail Pittlesnoot. How have we gotten to the point in our nation where people can no longer beat someone with a skateboard or kick someone in the face or threaten to kill them without the risk of being shot? It's just horrible. The American Society of Communist Skateboard Murderers, ASCSM, reports that more and more of their members are dropping out, no longer confident that they can go out at night, burn down cities, and bash in people's skulls with skateboards unmolested. Quote, this sets a dangerous precedent, said Pittlesnoot. It could be that in a very short time, we will no longer see gangs of marauding skateboard murderers, arsonists, roaming our streets at night, and that's a very sad thought. Experts are recommending that in the near future, for everyone's safety, people who own skateboards just ride them for fun instead of beating people with them. Way to go, Babylon Bee.
And I thought all this time we lived in a free country. We need to really look at this through the lens of skateboard equity.
Yeah.
And sometimes if you didn't have, the ability to go out and get a firearm, maybe,
Could you skateboard? I could never skateboard.
I
tried
skateboard.
it.
I grew up on a farm. There wasn't a lot of places to skateboard.
I tried.
On the farm.
The skateboard would just completely flip right out from under my feet, and you'd fall.
It would roll away.
One fall on your hip, or on your hips, or on your butt on asphalt or concrete. You're like, yeah, this isn't fun.
Well, it's interesting. There was a person actually killed out in California the day before this verdict came out on Wednesday when he was hit in the head with a skateboard. And
was it intentionally? Someone hit him?
Yeah, it was a
so he was murdered.
Commissioning a crime. Somebody was murdered with a skateboard.
Oh my God!
And I remember tweeting it out because I was just, 2 days before I was told by the prosecutors that, that wasn't a thing. Apparently it was a thing.
Yeah, apparently you can actually die when someone hits you over the head. Look, you can die from it because the skateboard has to be strong enough wood to hold someone that's a couple hundred pounds. So it's really solid, inch thick wood.
There's a lot of things that can be used as a weapon that weren't intended to be a weapon.
Right.
We got to get back to use of the tent, and that's up to the individual. But it still doesn't, it's unbelievable that you have news organizations that claim to be news organizations like MSNBC out there propagating this. These
and that's
lies.
all they do. And that's why we call them the illiberal left.